Alright, after all that edginess, time for something a bit more sober, in a sense.
Oh,
Which
hold
means
on.
we are,
3D health warning, guys.
I don't have a 3D
Sure.
TV, and much like Alucard said in in Helsing Ultimate Abridged, it's a thing that will never catch on, and won't you know, he was right. Anyway,
Yeah.
this is Prince of Persia, The Two Thrones. A lot of things to talk about this game. First of all, he had a very troubled development cycle because the reception and the sales for Warrior Within were okay in that regard. A lot of people were turned off by the edginess, so a lot of the things had to be rewritten. I will explain more detail later.
Oh my god, there's a setting for the blood.
And there was also in Warrior Within, they just kept it. But when it came to actually making the game, a lot of things changed. First of all,
They actually included the creator of his time.
Yeah, the creator came back, but the writers were actually the same of Warrior Within, so essentially they were kept on a leash in this case. Second, the Ubisoft wanted to, you know, find a way to conclude this trilogy in a way that both didn't discard it completely the second game. It could have been easily just say, oh, the second game never happened.
But they actually committed
no,
to it.
They actually wanted to create an actual compromise. So let's start where we just left off. In this case, the narrating voice of the game, which returns, is Kaileena herself.
Kaileena, is she like the love interest from the first game?
Yeah, the Empress of Time. Remember, she's recapping what happens. She's explaining. It's an interesting trick. She's explaining both endings of the second game, but she's telling us that the bad ending was not canon. And she tells us in a clear way and says, "Oh, some believes that this happened, but no, this is actually what happened."
Ah.
Yes, with
Was the Prince of a different voice actor again?
yeah, I know. Don't worry, I'll
Lowenthal.
get to it. Yeah, the good news is that Yuri Lowenthal is back.
Yeah.
Huh.
The truth is that he chose to save me from my destiny.
And he drank a potion that magically changed his voice. Again.
And doomed us all.
Yeah, another thing. For like a moron, he throws away the Amulet of Fair because he thinks, oh, the sands of time are gone and everything, so I don't need this anymore. This is kind of the justification they're gonna bring for him to have no powers at the beginning of the game.
Ah,
Also,
yes.
another thing is that Kaileena is not voiced anymore by Monica Bellucci. I don't know who voices her here.
Wait, hold on. She was voiced by Monica Bellucci. Oh, that's right. She was
Yeah, I
voiced by
told you.
Monica
But
Bellucci.
oopsie-doo, Babylonia is in complete flames.
Man, what is with Monica Bellucci getting crap to work with?
This means that someone or something is attacking, but that's the problem. I mean, where the prince left off, nothing was really threatening it. So what happened? We're about
He was
to find
gone for
out.
so long. He was gone for so long.
Actually, he told a couple of months. Actually, I forgot how much specifically. If he doesn't tell it here, it's later on. And apparently, the enemies we encountered are clearly not stormtroopers because they actually have accurate aim.
Yeah.
Well, fuck. And since like I'm more on the Prince threw away the amulet, and well, the sands were never created in the first place, he's just a regular human being for the time being. Yes, he has acrobatic skills, but he will have to survive on his own. Yeah, the thing is, due to this accident, he's gonna be separated by Kaileena, so for now, for the time being, we're gonna need to find her.
It looks like she's dead.
No, she's still alive, don't worry.
Boy, wouldn't it be just wonderful if he runs into what's her name from the first game?
Farah, well,
Yeah.
that would be... Anyway, another thing that may be noticed is that the graphical department, while still clearly not good and clearly still better in the normal version of having this HD port, it's still better than in the Warrior Within.
There's more color here.
And more shade to the faces. They look a bit more believable.
And where did the hardcore rock go?
Nowhere to be found.
No, it's gone. It's a bit of a mix. It's once again like in the first game. It's a mixture between
Others
things.
have taken the
Although there are
place.
two composers here: Stuart Chatwood and Einon Zur. And unfortunately, some enemies have found Kaileena first, so she's gonna be taken prisoner for the time being,
Leverage.
or hostages.
Let her go!
Let
Thanks,
the let the ever-powerful goddess go, please.
Well,
Tell me when you want to hear.
the
more.
good thing is that Kaileena, being the narrator, Kaileena does the same thing that the prince did in the first game. When you pause the game, she mentions it. When you save the game, she mentions it. And occasionally she narrates what happened. This is also another good thing, but in this case, the prince finally
made his
decides
way
to,
along
you
the
know,
torn
start
and
talking to
blasted
himself
trail,
again, and
haunted by
Kaileena
visions
narrates,
from
so
the past.
you don't get
The
these, you
dockside
don't get any more
tavern
these
that
long
many late
sequences
nights
when
is
no
now
one
reduced
talks
to
anymore.
cinders.
Thank God.
Babylon's proud
And also,
armada,
it's sort of a
which
shame
you
that they
would
didn't
often
have
come to
something
believe
happen when you
lay
select
cracks
something
and
like
broken.
options, and that paused it.
However, some things in the gameplay department changed. For example, you don't switch anymore regularly to the camera controls. Now the fixed camera can be switched only in selected places. For the most time being, you're having the standard behind-the-shoulder camera.
Which works for this kind of game.
Yeah, the fixed camera is only really needed in some situations, and that's probably why this game decided to implement it in that regard. There you go. And this function again like your usual tutorial. Another thing is that much like in the previous games, water is your way of recovering, and is also
Everywhere there are
as the
signs
fountains
of
for.
battle.
Hold on.
But what of Babylon's God?
Yeah, another thing.
Where have
Sorry,
they all
Dweebs, to
gone?
say this, but there are no subtitles again.
Were there subtitles in the original PS2 version?
No, I don't think so. I
That's what
I honestly don't understand this flip-flopping between subtitles and
Is
not.
this a... Did Yuri Lowenthal have a clause in this contract or something saying no subtitles?
No, because in the Forgotten Sands there are subtitles, and trust me, we're gonna need them.
Why, is the sound mixing terrible? Or something like that?
Actually, no. There's another big problem tied to probably being my PS3 and everything, but all in due time. For now, let's just say that while the dialogue is fine in that game, you're probably gonna need subtitle anyway.
Here's the thing about these games. For some reason, in a lot of cases, they look kind of worse than the PS2 ones.
Well,
Like-
yeah, Jova, again, this port was clearly not made with the best equipment and everything, so obviously that's why the shade and everything. If anything, I'm convinced that if a company like Bluepoint did it, it would probably have been better. At
Question:
least.
Now, when was this?
sorry, go ahead.
When was this remaster made and released?
2008, probably around
Let
there.
me, no, I think it was 2011. Let me check.
Oh, so this was when Ubisoft was starting to get in love with the Assassin's Creed stuff. So obviously
Shall I
they didn't
continue
give
my story
these
from here,
remasters the
or-
love they needed.
2010.
Yep,
This is a fine
yep,
place to
yep.
start the trail next time.
I think that was on Assassin's Creed free time.
I don't remember. No, Assassin's Creed was later, the early cycle of the PS4.
It's interesting
Wait,
you were.
what?
Sorry.
No, Assassin's Creed was starting off in the PS3.
No, I
era.
mean Assassin's Creed 3, you mentioned.
Oh, okay. But yeah, basically by this time Ubisoft had found their moneymaker with the Assassin's Creed stuff, so of course franchises that weren't Assassin's Creed started to suffer.
Oh, hold on, yeah, we are about to have a cutscene.
Oh, hello there, Sword.
Why is it that every time disaster strikes, I find myself without a proper blade?
Get used to it, please.
Yeah.
Still, it's better than
Cute.
nothing.
Yeah, it's better than like Martin
Hey, Yuri Lowenfeld!
Is another cool new mechanic, stealth kill. Thank God now you can actually insta-kill enemies if you can get them from behind. Trust me, this is a savior because the combat is not hard. It's just the same as it was in Warrior Within. But obviously the Prince now is armed with a simple dagger, so it doesn't do much damage on its own. You need to get clever with your acrobatics and everything. But you can use these stealth kills in order to dispatch the enemies relatively quickly with simple button presses when the screen flashes like this.
I always laugh whenever people try and insist that Prince of Persia didn't inspire Assassin's Creed. Like, come on, guys.
Well, that's again, Jova. The first Assassin's Creed was supposed to be a Prince of Persia game, so...
Yeah, and yet people still try and insist, oh, no. Assassin's Creed doesn't know a thing to Prince of Persia.
Yeah. Anyway,
Oh, it's interesting you were saying that too, because in that article detailing the history of Bluepoint that I showed you yesterday, Marco Fresh, the president, actually does mention his opinion on the bad remasters we've seen
Like
over the years.
Silent Hill.
Yeah, Silent Hill gets mentioned, and he says this, and I'm quoting here. Let me just get it. He says, "It's just like basically he hates it when he sees stuff like, for example, black bars that shouldn't be there, stuff like that." And he said, I'm saying, it's just you don't even care. It's not respecting the original source material and all the hard work that the original developers poured into the game.
Yeah.
Like the Fresh takes they take the work of remastering a game very seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's commendable, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, remasters are essentially something that you could do half-heartedly.
But that's
because
the
they're
point.
easier,
You're supposed
but the
to,
idea is
in a
actually
lot of
not.
cases, essentially you're introducing to the new generation, which couldn't experience these titles before.
Yeah.
These titles, and this is the impression that you're going to give.
One of the
This
things
is
we
the
have to
reason
remember.
why a lot of people sometimes prefer remakes over remasters, because remakes more often than not get more effort than remasters.
Especially because, unlike film, books, and music, games are not an incredibly accessible medium because they're very dependent on the platform that they were made for, you know?
And the control scheme, too.
Yeah, and the control scheme as well. So, of all the media, so when it comes to mediums and remasters and remakes, this is the medium that needs them the most. So
The problem is that, it's like I said, because remasters, or at least what people think of remasters, don't require as much effort, companies don't tend to give them that effort unless they're Blue Point games, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
Really frustrating. And
Well,
again, that's
to be
part of the
fair,
reason
there's
why-
also
I
Etc.
don't remember which company was responsible for it, but I can tell you for a fact that the Okami
Extra
remastered,
Drive.
both
I was literally about to mention that. Yeah, that's
both
because
for the PS3 and PS4 is actually done competently.
that's because they were made by Extra Drive. For those who don't know, Extra Drive is basically the Japanese equivalent of Blue Point Sword. So though not as good still. But yeah, Extra Drive is actually
Kaileena.
responsible for. Hold on, cutscene.
No, essentially we're just getting their way.
Okay.
No.
Extra Drive is mostly responsible for more Japanesey remasters like Teo said, Okami. They also did the 2.0 patch for the Zone of the Enders HD collection, which fixed a lot of
the
problems.
one that actually fixed the
Yeah,
frame rate.
yeah. Basically, they got Extra Drive to fix their shit, basically. And they also helped out a bit with the development of Final Fantasy 15.
Alright. Here we go. Essentially, combat works similar in the same way, but as I mentioned, the dagger doesn't do much damage. This gets compensated by the enemies not having as big as Elbar. And another thing you may have noticed, the sound design is much better. The enemies don't scream every 5 seconds.
I also like how they even improved the battle system of Warrior Within, and you actually get to also incorporate your parkour into the attacks with the sword.
Well, you could do that ever since the first game, though.
Well, more like the game more so encourages it more than it did.
Yeah,
in the previous
and the
game.
good thing is that this also in turn encourages you also to use the secondary weapons in combat, because those are, despite their durability system, they're much more powerful than the dagger.
Through this place, intent on bringing harm to my family.
Yeah, the prince is wondering
They attacked
who
the
could
prince's family.
be. Yeah,
The royal
prince,
family.
The prince wonder who could be behind this attack, because honestly, at this point, he doesn't know many people will be at Babylonia's throat.
What's the name of the villain of
Remember-
this game too?
Huh?
What's the name of this game's
Actually,
villain?
I cannot
We
tell you
have
because
not
it's a
met
bit,
the villain
it's a
yet.
bit of a
Well,
surprise.
whoever you are out there, stop attacking the
attack
prince's
the prince.
family. Come on.
Please. It's very rude.
4 weeks I've been
Hold
at
on.
sea,
4 weeks it
and
was.
every day spent dreaming of my return to Babylon. But never, in all my visions of the
who
future,
are you
did I
talking to,
suspect a
Prince?
homecoming such as this.
Remember, Pedro, it's a thing that the prince did also in the first game, talking to himself.
I know. It's just that it doesn't. No matter how much I hear it, it
Even
doesn't.
lampshades it frequently, like stop
So-
talking to yourself.
So basically, guys, a Yuri Lowenfeld character just said the lines, "It's better than nothing."
Yeah.
I spent so much of Warrior Within comparing that game to Mighty Number 9, and now we have this. Like,
It's cathartic.
Yeah.
it is. It really is.
Also,
yeah.
in, terms,
Oh, sorry.
in order to make a bit easier, archers have a smaller L bar, so they're even easier to kill, both in combat and in stealth. Go ahead, Pedro.
I found the actual line that I was looking for. There you go. On occasion, Blue Point has to turn down a certain proposed by a studio because they're busy with other stuff, obviously. but then, and as a result, they resort to giving that remastering duty to someone who produces suboptimal product. And he says here, like, we enjoy these games and we want to see this game done just. It hurts me seeing other companies just taking it and basically doing it for the money, aka Ubisoft, like we were talking about right now with these remasters.
Well, it doesn't look as bad as some other remasters I've seen.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're not saying these are the worst remasters ever made or anything
No,
like
if I had to say that, remember, Warrior Within is the worst of the bunch, obviously.
Like
But the other two are okay. But I do believe, honestly, that a company like Bluepoint could have done a better job. For comparison, to mention a couple of remasters that I actually played, and I can say that I remember them being actually fine. For example, the Beyond Good and Evil HD game was made by Ubisoft Shanghai, and yeah, if I remember, it was mostly fine. I don't remember any particular problems.
Should I continue?
The Devil May Cry HD collection had a bit of a problem if you didn't use the HD cable on the European PS3 version, but other than that, it ran just as fine as the originals. Hold on.
He had made a promise that was now broken and undone.
Oh yeah, it's the theme of the game.
As with all mistakes he had made, the prince meant to fix this.
Hold on, decent babes.
A noble goal to be certain, but a selfish one as well.
Essentially, this is gonna be the theme of the game. The prince having to understand himself better as a person and his motivations, why he wants to do things. Is he doing them does he need to take responsibility for his people because, he's still royalty, or does he need to prioritize constantly wanting to fix his childish mistakes? That's the dilemma that the game poses, and the prince will actually eventually have to face.
Knew them anyway.
You wanted to add something, Dweebs?
I was just going to say, I can imagine the prince saying in his head, could you mind being quiet? I need to concentrate. I'm balancing on a very delicate beam.
Actually, Dweebs, there is someone Kaileena is talking, this thing too, but we're going to have to wait to the end of the game.
Okie dokie.
Anyway, this also serves you to watch enemies. Instead of spawning immediately, you get to actually see them around before. In this case, they don't spawn immediately, and you can use this to your advantage. Like, for example, in this case, there were the ravens. Enemies get alert a bit by sounds. So if you manage to distract them with sounds in true stealth fashion, you can manage to move them away and actually manage to kill them easily. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the goal of the prince right now is to actually get to the palace, because, he's the fucking prince, so he needs to understand where are the guards, where's his father. Remember, his father at this point was alive again, because despite us killing it in Sands of Time, by reverting the effect of the sands, he's now technically still alive.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Oh, it's another interesting thing they introduced. There you go. The prince, there you go, is using this. He's gonna use the column to slide like this. There you go.
Quite versatile.
Yeah.
Ow, ow, ow.
Just roll with it, Dweebs.
Ha, roll with it and you just rolled there.
Yeah, dodge rolling. There you go. Again, you can use all the environment to your advantage. You can sprint from the wall by launching yourself like this, jump on the enemies and either use your secondary weapon or use the main weapons to do a critical attack. There is some creativity thanks to Warrior Within's refined combat, and this is how it's kind of perfected. Forgotten Sands does its own thing with the combat. It's not bad, but it's a clear departure from the rest of the franchise, so if you're jumping in from this original trilogy, you're going to be alienated quite a bit.
Is Forgotten Sands the fourth game, or is that the reboot?
The fourth game. The reboot, it's using the Sonic 06 approach. It's called Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Just that.
Prince of Persia 2008.
Yeah. But remember, Joe, there are different versions of Forgotten Sands, so I don't know exactly how the other version actually works. So, for example, I don't know how the Wii version works or the PSP one. I know how the Nintendo DS version works because all the Nintendo
That's a sequel,
DS...
isn't it?
No, remember, the
Yeah, a sequel to the reboot was on the.
No,
yeah.
that was the Fallen King, Jova. There was a DS version of Forgotten Sands, but it was like an alternate version of the actual game. It's not canon, so you're not even supposed to care. The Fallen King, though, is the sequel to the 2008 reboot that was repurposed for the DS. It's another game entirely.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I mean, well, that the DS game being a sequel to the reboot.
Yeah, but there was also a DS version of Forgotten Sands. Remember, there are 4 versions of Forgotten Sands: the HD, the Wii, the PSP, and the Nintendo DS.
Of course.
Each of them with its own plot, but for the purpose of continuity, we're gonna have to follow only the HD one for the moment. If anyone wants to record the other versions in the future, be my guest.
I love how Prince of Persia: The Fallen King, they tried to pass it off as a spin-off when the actual reboot wasn't too well received.
Well, that's the thing, Java. It was clearly repurposed. It was supposed to be the official sequel because they wanted to make a new trilogy out of it. But since the reboot flopped spectacularly, it just didn't work and we had to repurpose. And in turn, nobody cared and it signed the end of a reboot.
Even though it's the same character and the characters act like it happened after the events of the reboot, so...
Yeah, it's a sequel only... It's a sequel in everything but, essentially.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the next part we continue our journey towards the palace. See ya.
Okay,
See ya.
see ya.
Done.